I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Thursday.
Whose fault is it we keep stealing stuff? Is it the business's fault?
This is going to be a good one. Intriguing. Coming out of Douglas County, we're going to talk with County Commissioner Abe Layden, who's helping lead this effort. But Douglas County wants to crack down on shoplifting, in part by fining stores if they don't report this. This is an interesting follow-up to a Common Sense Institute report we talked about last week. The state of Colorado, the economic impact on the state of Colorado as a result of retail theft, $1.3 billion. And what was discovered in this report, and we spoke with law enforcement, was that in many cases, businesses just don't report it anymore. They're tired of dealing with it. They're tired of having their staff try to chase these people down, deal with police reports. So they just go, whatever, we're done. We're exhausted. We're not going to report it anymore. And is that encouraging more shoplifting? Is it driving up the prices on the rest of us who are having to compensate for that theft that's taking place? And is it right to start to hold these businesses accountable? The look the other way mentality, is it harming us? Well, Douglas County commissioners want to do something about it. We're going to talk with Abe Layden here in just a few minutes. Now is time, though, for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good Thursday morning, 50 with cloudy conditions in Denver. Beautiful. Expecting a high of 63 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, Jeff and Billy were talking about Tina Peters last hour. Ann Vandersteel says all this started in Serbia, and the CIA playground perfected digital election manipulation, handed off to countries like Venezuela to weaponize elections and control countries. And my computer is freezing right now, and I'm going to get
the Serbians.
Or the Venezuelans.
Absolutely.
Venezuelans or the Egyptians.
Here we go, all of them. Here we go.
Those folks expected governors, secretaries of state, and corrupt supervisors of elections to play along. And they did. But they did not expect a county clerk in Mesa County, Colorado, Tina Peters, a Gold Star mom, to catch them in the act. Tina imaged the Dominion machines before they were illegally wiped. She preserved the only untouched 2020 data set in America. Imagine that, 3,143 counties, and she's the only county clerk who has that image. And that image is one that mirrors exactly what Serbian and Venezuelan insiders described. Serbia whistleblowers, and the moment that she did that, well, they moved to destroy her because Tina didn't just uncover election fraud. She exposed a foreign intelligence operation running on American soil. This is why they fear her. This is why, in fact, she's in a prison cell. And this is why her story is the single most important national security case in modern American history.
Ann Vandersteel, you can check her out.
Freaking crazy. That is a laundry list of lies and mistruths. I mean, an absolute, almost an encyclopedia recitation of incorrect information. Because one, Tina didn't preserve the only copy. That's preserved by county clerks across the country and across the state. That was not wiped by Dominion. That's not what the trusted bill does. The county clerks held on to what was legally required by both the state and the feds. What Tina held on to also hasn't proved any manipulation. That's the core of this idea that her reports proved any manipulation. They haven't. They've been debunked over and over and over again. I understand they're true believers, but her reports do not prove election fraud. And that's incredibly important to this clown that is out there running her mouth talking about the fact that election fraud was proven based on what Tina did. It's not the only pristine version that was secured, and it also is not proof of anything. That is a laundry list of nonsense, but fun to listen to. Entertaining, but wrong on so many levels.
hopefully Ann will come on the show with you tomorrow at 6. I want to wake up to that.
Here's the idea. All Ann has
Dude,
to do.
set it up, baby. Give
all
us the
Ann-
contact
Go right ahead.
information.
Go right ahead. And all Ann has to do in the first 5 minutes is explain why Fox News didn't use Tina Peters' proof.
What's her name again? Ann what?
Ann Vandersteel.
Yeah. Why didn't Fox News use Tina Peters' proof?
Ann
And the reason why is because Fox doesn't write.
Vandersteel. Yeah.
Fox doesn't write a nearly $800 million check if Tina has any proof. They don't write a
Steel
single
truth.
They don't have to. Fox News doesn't have to pay a penny if Tina has any proof at all. If she had, again, any proof of any voter manipulation, Fox News wouldn't have to pay a dime, because Fox News would then be able to prove in court either voting manipulation is real or they were covering a legitimate news story. Either of those dissolves the lawsuit from Dominion, not has them win. Dissolves it, as in poof, goes away, bye-bye, gone. That's it. And Fox News didn't. You're telling me the silk stocking lawyers didn't know about Tina's reports? Come on. You're telling me the silk stocking lawyers didn't have them analyzed? Come on. They wrote an almost $800 million check because they couldn't prove it, and they knew about Tina's stuff. It was covered on their airwaves. They knew. They know it's not proof. That's all you need to know. If proof existed,
Blake?
it would have already been in court. It's not there.
Any
Let
response?
her go. Let her go. They're hiding.
That's a different issue. We can talk about that. That's a different issue. But the idea that she had any proof is nothing.
They're hiding something. They are hiding something.
Hiding what? What? Hiding? Who's hiding what? There's no one's hiding anything.
I mean, come on.
What do you mean, come on?
9 years.
Again,
I mean, you guys
putting her in jail for 9 years.
about it for
Hang on,
an hour
but putting
or so.
her in jail for 9 years doesn't mean anybody's hiding anything, because it's a Republican county with a Republican DA and a jury that she picked in a Republican county of her voters that chose her. And in that situation, where's the political railroading? The other thing is, she didn't prove anything. We can argue about her sentence, but the fact that she got 9 years isn't proof positive of anything that she had fraud. That's it.
Some of the dirtiest people in the world, I mean, in the world, are making sure that she's locked up for almost a decade.
The Republican Attorney General in Mesa County?
And Grizzy is walking free after what she did. Yeah, definitely. What the freak is going on here? A nut job walks into a tanning salon in Loveland with a hammer and starts wailing on one of the employees, hitting her at least a dozen times and dragging her into another room. Kyle Behrens is the suspect in custody after what police say was a random attack. The Loveland police spokesman.
The general resident and citizen and employee, this isn't something that the public encounters. And so going through this is something that this is going to be a lifelong journey for them to overcome, to mend with, and to process.
Behrens also tried to stab the employee and a customer. The first victim, the employee, fought for her life and is in serious condition. The customer suffered minor injuries. Thank God they are both alive today, and he is in jail. My goodness. Tyler Robinson, the man accused of murdering Charlie Kirk, will make a court appearance today in person for the first time. Wednesday on the Candace Owens Show, she played an interview with Tucker Carlson that he had with Theo Vaughn. The problem is we don't have any faith in our government. Boy, I agree with that.
Here's what I am concerned about. A lot of things. One, he acted alone. Tell me how that worked. I don't, none of us really act alone.
It's hard to go anywhere by yourself, too.
Thank you. Exactly. You acted totally alone. Okay. You're going to have to prove that to me. It's totally possible. Anything is possible. Weird things have happened. We'll continue to. But that's not my default assumption, and it shouldn't be yours. And their default assumption was we acted alone. Really? Why do you think that? What about life suggests that people typically act alone? When was the last time you acted alone in anything? I don't go, right? So A. B, we know that people had foreknowledge of this because they posted about it on X and said Charlie Kirk is going to be killed on this date, and he was.
Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
But were they just guessing? Was it a guessing thing where every day they posted that?
Maybe. Have those people been interviewed? Have they been hauled into FBI HQ and had a long conversation with how they knew that? Like, let's get really specific. Why did you post that? Who have you talked to? Like, if I were doing this investigation, because I spent my whole life doing non-criminal investigations called journalism, like, what do we know is true? How do we find out? Call everybody, be open-minded. It's like it's the same process. If I was doing this investigation, they would be at the very top of the list. Tell me how this guy who seemed normal became a radical trans furry murderer? It's not enough to tell me, oh, trans. I'm not pro-trans, by the way.
But was that the guy or his boyfriend?
Well, exactly right. Tell me how this guy became so radicalized that he murdered a stranger.
I know Jeff believes that, and, it could have happened. We'll see. Hopefully they do their job, and no stone is left unturned. All right, great seeing everybody last night at our Christmas party. My man, Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson always has a good dad joke. I'm probably going to ruin it right here. What's a round Christmas decoration that hangs on your door and made of dollar bills?
What?
Aretha Franklin's.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, good one.
I like that one. That was a good one, Marky. Florida Panthers at the Avs tonight at 7:30. Nuggets at the Kings 8 o'clock tonight. 48 in Aurora, 49 in Arvada, 50 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill. We'll argue again tomorrow. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Breezy periods, but mild and dry. We have Arctic air to our north and east, but it's not going to be able to come south as Pacific air will dominate. This will keep temperatures well above average as we go through the rest of the week, through the weekend, into the start of next week. 50s and lower 60s today, low to mid 60s tomorrow. Little cooler, upper 50s Friday, then 50s and 60s for the weekend. Nighttime temperatures will be mostly in the middle to upper 30s. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Headline coming from the Denver Post. Douglas County wants to crack down on shoplifting, in part by fining stores if they don't report it. We talked about this fascinating report from Common Sense Institute last week with Mitch Morrissey, former DA for Denver, the state of Colorado losing $1.3 billion economic impact with retail theft. Oftentimes it's organized. It's taken a lot of money away from the rest of us. It's taken away a tax base. So it's harming us in a big way, and it's getting worse. Well, Douglas County leaders want to put an end to the look the other way mentality when it comes to retail theft. And they aim to do so in part by threatening to fine businesses that fail or refuse to report shoplifting. To give us some insight on this is Douglas County Commissioner Abe Layden. Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Great. So tell us your plan and why you see businesses being in part, the problem here.
Well, they're not. I mean, it's all about partnership with the business sector, and we're working really closely with the Douglas County Economic Development Corporation as well as the retail industry to have this conversation. I mean, look, the problem is that in places like LA, San Francisco, Portland, you have these large corporate policies for the big box stores saying, hey, let's just write this off as a loss and people can walk out. We're seeing video of individuals going into a Home Depot, loading up an entire cart full of drills, thousands of dollars of merchandise, and just walking out. So part of the problem is we're seeing it in the zeitgeist, right? So comedians are even saying, hey, you can just go into a store and walk right out. You're not going to get caught, right? Well, not in Douglas County. So for us, we are ending the look the other way era. We're not going to allow a culture where people walk out of a store with a stack of drills and nobody says a word. So that era is over in our county.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys wanting to do that. In our analysis of the Common Sense Institute report, this was part of the problem, is that businesses are just at this point going, we don't want to deal with the headache. But I'm intrigued on the enforcement side of this because part of the reason businesses don't want to go after the shoplifters is they don't want to put their employees, for instance, in the role of law enforcement of trying to stop these. So do you think,
100%.
Yeah, what is the enforcement mechanism on this?
Well, we agree with retailers. We don't want anybody going out into the parking lot and getting into fights. We really are looking forward to an ongoing partnership where managers at a big box store like a Target, a Best Buy, a Home Depot, they are simply calling the police. It's basic common sense things that your listeners and hopefully us as commissioners, we understand well. But again, you have the community that you accept. And in a lot of, large metropolitan areas, there's sort of this concept of, well, some people just need to steal. We don't have that perspective. I think you have two types of folks, those that sympathize with the criminals and those that sympathize with hardworking taxpayers, and that's us. So for us, every unreported theft drives up prices for hardworking families. It's a hidden tax. Like you said, with the Common Sense Institute, we're seeing billions of dollars being unreported and just lost into our community. So with us, I want to be really clear that this is it's a $50 fine. So we're not seeing this as something that's going to be significant for the business industry. But the little change that will be really significant is when you have a local law that modifies a larger corporate policy, they got to go back to Chicago and say, look, we need to change our policies in Douglas County because they made a law that will change how we report theft. So the idea is just to incentivize these big box stores and retailers to partner with law enforcement and be part of keeping our community safe.
That's Abe Layden. He's a county commissioner in Douglas County. The county wants to crack down on shoplifting in part by fining stores if they don't report it. What's been the word and response from Douglas County Sheriff Darren Weekly?
It's been fantastic, and I am always really thrilled and impressed with our sheriff as well as our district attorney, George Brockler. We just had a very large meeting with the public, a press conference just the other day with both the sheriff and the DA, and all three commissioners as well as both of those colleagues are on board with this. We're going to work with the business sector. I'm going to say, too, that we're just on first reading. We're not to second reading yet, so we're continuing to stakehold, work with business owners. If there are tweaks or modifications to the language that they want to see or that our citizens want to see, we're open to that. But we don't wait to do great. We want to get this out and get moving.
That's Abe Layden, Douglas County Commissioner, wanting to talk to us about the idea of holding businesses in Douglas County responsible for retail theft in a way of maybe a fine if they are not reporting it. What I'm trying to figure out in my mind is what's the enforcement mechanism behind this? And what I mean is, how do we check that the businesses are or are not reporting retail theft? How is that process going to work?
We're not. And I think that's where that sigh of relief comes from retailers. So, we're going to let businesses do their work. We're going to stay out of the, operations of business. That's not the role of government. At the end of the day, common sense would dictate, how would we ever know that a manager or an employee is not reporting theft? The goal is for this to be a deterrent and for those larger corporate policies coming out of New York and Chicago to find their way back to Douglas County and say, look, you got to comply with the local laws and you got to report to law enforcement. It's about changing corporate policy to protect citizens and keep prices low.
Yeah, I can see that, and I understand the desire behind it, but I can't figure out personally, and again, I'm not trying to pick a fight with you, I can't figure out functionally how this would be enacted, because I can't see what makes the large big box store out of Chicago all of a sudden become more forthcoming with their retail theft. And what I mean by that is the threat of a fine to some of those large retailers for not reporting a crime, to me, is a disincentive for them ever to report the crime. It seems to be counterproductive because already their behavior pattern is to not report the crime. So that's where they are right now. And there's no enforcement mechanism to ensure they report the crime. So I can't come to the conclusion they would report any retail theft at a higher rate than they are now. So the functionality would be the fine never falls.
Yeah,
because
or is it like a
$50
$50 a day or $50 an activity? How does that get levied?
No, I think that's a great question. I really appreciate it. I think, as a business and real estate attorney for many years before I was a commissioner, we understand how corporations operate, and they by and large, especially at the larger big box retailer level, they will comply with local laws. And so it's really about this information about our ordinance getting out to those boardrooms outside of our state and saying, look, you got to comply with the laws in Douglas County. And that's what they do in any jurisdiction. They are going to comply with the local laws in which they're operating.
Now, County Commissioner Abe Layden, I want to ask, what do we do with like the Douglas County Sheriff's Office? Walk me through how they could possibly help enforce these fines or anything, because this is a criminal activity as far as retail theft. But I can't figure out, again, what I'm trying to figure out is how we identify the corporations that are not reporting the retail theft. How do we identify that activity, and then how do we enforce the fine? Because if they're already not reporting the retail theft, how do we discover or get them to report something they already are not reporting and are now disincentivized to report? Because if they do report it, they're going to get fined. So how do we get them to talk to us about stuff that they don't want to get fined for?
Yeah, and my friend, I think you continue to go down the line of we're somehow trying to force businesses to do something versus just change corporate policy. So I'm going to keep saying that we want to change corporate policy at the local level, and an ordinance does that. We're not looking to victimize the victims. We're not looking to crack down on, managers or employees on any level. We want to change policies at your local King Soopers and Home Depot and Targets so that they know here in Douglas County, you have an obligation under the law to report. In terms of are we going to go out and video camera and make sure everybody's, making calls? Absolutely not. We want to let businesses do the work of businesses. But again, it's changing that corporate policy.
We're talking with Abe Layden. He's a county commissioner in Douglas County. Headline coming from the Denver Post: Douglas County wants to crack down on shoplifting in part by fining stores if they don't report it. Basically, it's a $50 fine for each 24-hour period following an unreported theft, with a maximum fine of $1,000 per incident. Commissioner Layden saying that this is an effort to change corporate policy. They're not going to be allocating a whole new division within the sheriff's department, for instance, to go look at video cameras to see if businesses are abiding by this, but they want to send a message on up to big box stores and their corporate offices that you cannot continue to just ignore and off-right the theft that's taking place, because that is harming the community to allow this to fester and to grow. I had a meeting with Sheriff Weekly, and he said something that was shocking to me, which was that a good 80% of the people in his jails aren't from Douglas County.
Correct.
I'd love to hear from you as a commissioner how Douglas County, with folks like Sheriff Weekly and George Brockler seeking to be tough on crime, are facing real challenges from the weak on crime, if not pro-crime, cities that surround you. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, Douglas County is the most prosperous county in the state. We're also the safest. We've ended homelessness. We have a really great hell attack team, the only one in the entire state that puts out wildfires. So people want to be here, but that includes the criminals. But not so much. The bad guys talk, right? So when we crack down on crime and not just create a perception, but a reality of public safety in Douglas County, those bad guys are going to say, you know what, not there. The cops chase. They're going to put us in jail. And if we go into that big box store, guess what? We can't just walk out with $1,000 worth of drills. We're going to get reported. So it's continuing that enforcement. We're so close to 470 in the Denver metro area that in other jurisdictions that may be more lax on crime, there may be a thought that, hey, Douglas County is a target. We're removing that target.
And I think it's not fair for Douglas County residents, unfortunately. It's just the way the world is, that oftentimes you guys and the taxpayers are having to carry the burden of actually making Colorado safer because you're willing to step up and confront these issues, whereas other DAs, other judges, other counties are willing to go, well, God forbid we put a bad guy behind jail and behind bars. You guys willing to step up, and unfortunately that puts a tougher burden upon you all. But fortunately, you got good folks like Sheriff Weekly and all the men and women who serve in Douglas County law enforcement, and George Brockler willing to hold these guys accountable. And same thing for you, Commissioner. So this will be fascinating to watch. What are the next steps with regards to this proposal?
Yeah, we're going to continue, and thank you for that, Jeff. We're going to continue to listen to the business community and stakehold this. We did meet with the Douglas County EDC, got nothing but thanks, zero opposition. We're going to meet with more retailers and their associated representatives and just make sure that we're getting it right for them. Again, we don't want to penalize the business owners and the small business owners that are working hard to make a living. we want to partner with them and make sure that they don't feel beholden to out-of-state policies, out of Chicago and New York that are limiting their ability to keep their things safe and people safe in our community.
That's a fascinating moment in public policy discussion. Well, Commissioner Abe Layden, we appreciate your time. You can follow Abe Layden on X if you go to x.com/Abe Layden if you want to learn more about him. Abe, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, have a good day.
All right. Would love to hear from you. Give us a call because this is a fascinating moment in public policy, right? Like you have national chains, big corporations that go, just let them walk out the door. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want our staff to have to act like law enforcement. We'll just write it off and, it'll be tacked on to prices. There's definitely an impact there, but we don't want to deal with it. And so you're a county commissioner in Douglas County, like Abe Layden, going, well, we don't want, these policies are really harming us because it feeds retail theft. In the state of Colorado, dealing with this in a big way. It's gotten worse. We're at $1.3 billion, record high retail theft. So what do? You can definitely seek to arrest the shoplifters, but if the corporations aren't reporting them, how do you know? And you don't necessarily want to burden small businesses with strong regulations. So can you send a corporate policy? That's what it seems like they're trying to do. Is this the role of government? Are they being too heavy-handed in the regulations?
That's a question, because last hour we're talking about all these regulations clamping down on businesses and making it hard for businesses to function. Is this just an example of another regulation? That's
and
interesting.
Now you got to devote somebody's time to it. So if you're having shoplifting, you have a staffer that has to call Douglas County Sheriff, or you're going to end up with a fine.
Ooh,
Lots to discuss here. Join the conversation. Here's the phone number, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Folks, let's talk the gun room. Here's a good way to defend yourself. The gun room in Lakewood. These folks are absolutely fantastic. I've loved getting to know Wayne. Wonderful store. I am not a guns pro in the sense that I can tell you all the different types of ammunition size and what different guns do. I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, but I just am not down into the details. And sometimes when you walk into a gun store, you can feel a little intimidated, like you're not going to be respected because you don't know everything. That's not the case with the gun room in Lakewood. These folks are absolutely fantastic. They love, in fact, they pride themselves on being kind, welcoming, and helping people that maybe even first-time gun purchasers. Go check out the gun room. These are Colorado people. They know firearms. They know safety. They'll take you the time to walk through everything to find out what's right for you. So whether you're new to shooting or looking to expand your collection or want expert guidance from people who actually care, the gun room is the place for you. And ladies, with the holidays coming up, I'm going to make this really easy for you. If you've been wondering what to get your husband, dad, or the outdoorsman in your life, a gift card to the gun room is a home run. Trust me on this one. Stop in, browse their selection of new and used firearms, or just ask a few questions. They love helping people. Give them a call. They'll pick up the phone and talk you through anything. Their phone number is 303-237-1300. That's 303-237-1300. And if you've got a big collection of firearms, maybe you inherited it and you're looking to sell it, they'll come in and work with you on big collections, give you a fair price. It's the Gun Room in Lakewood. Check them out at denvergunroom.com and be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. I'll be sure to see you inside. And we will continue. Phone lines hot on this one. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking a headline coming from the Denver Post. Douglas County wants to crack down on shoplifting, in part by fining stores if they don't report it. Just spoke with Abe Layden, the county commissioner in Douglas County, part of the effort to pass this. They're going, look, our point is not to overburden businesses, but these corporate policies that allow people to just walk out the front door with lots of our material that's being stolen and not reporting it is harming our communities. And we want to send a message. Our goal is to try to change corporate policy. So if you don't report retail theft within 24 hours, it's a $50 fine for each 24-hour period following an unreported theft, with a maximum fine of $1,000 per incident. But is this government overreach? Another regulation that businesses want to do. If businesses don't want to report their theft, that's their prerogative. And if they're going to increase prices as a result of it, well, then that's their prerogative too.
Yeah, if their policy is pay up, sucker, what you going to do about it?
What do you think? Let's go to the phone lines. Marty in Denver. Good morning, Marty. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Well, gentlemen, so good to be with you. I would just ask the listener to pause before we go too all in on Abe Layden. I want to make sure our voters and listeners remember this was a man that was married and had a child and abandoned them for a homosexual relationship and advertises himself as a Christian conservative in the best county in the state. That has to be known moving forward.
No, Marty, hang on a sec.
Hang
on a sec. Hold on here. I do not appreciate, nor do I condone, those type of ad hominem attacks that are used to denigrate someone's intellectual position on any sort of an argument. And you know better than that. Now, Marty, and we can disagree on Abe's personal behavior, and we can always call out individuals' personal behavior, but using that personal behavior as a justification to discount their intellectual capacity, ability, or anything they're advocating for, I think is not good. In fact, it is a core logical fallacy. So I appreciate that you and others in the audience, and maybe even me myself, disagree with what Abe had done, but I disagree with using that as a preface to disagree with some action he is taking based on the job that he is in now. I think the two are separate, and I think we owe it to him and others in the audience to separate the two. Now continue.
This is what I would describe that as, not an intellectual deficiency, but do we have a wolf in sheep clothing? Because you guys hit it on the lead in there, more government overreach. And so I do think that choice and then the abandonment of one's family, but still pretend to be a Christian conservative, those are conflict. And so we judge fruit, Billy and Jeb. And so that's what we're saying. Is this the fruit of somebody who's actually working for the enemy and wants more government, or is actually working on the behalf of Douglas County? I just think that needs to be addressed. But the second,
I can see that. I can see that. But I can see that. But I guess I'm not going to elevate our government regulation into necessarily a spiritual conflict or working for the enemy.
Fair.
I think that's a little bit large, because I'm just saying that if God, with all of his omniscience and omnipotence, he should be able to change our laws and rules at any point in time. He could disappear the entire earth if he wanted to. So him having to have people go in and change laws that way, or even the devil himself, if we have got the devil down to the point where he is worried about local county rules and regulations, hey, we should call this a win because he's not stealing souls. If we have got him so micromanaged that he's worried about changing a policy about theft in Douglas County, I think that we, as far as spiritual warriors, can take that as a win. Because obviously, he's focusing on something that is not at the top of the to-do list, which is to take souls out of heaven. So, just saying. Maybe we could take that as a win. But continue.
We have inflated people into a point of where they commit crime. I understand that we can't just say, okay, well, it's okay to steal because you're poor or you're black or you're brown. But at what point do the prices that we're being suffocated with be addressed as a 911 and watch the stealing and the theft go away when a candy bar isn't $5 at 7-Eleven? I mean, that was 50 cents ago when we were growing up. So isn't the bigger issue that they've inflated and suffocated this economy so much that there is this, well, I don't care. Either I have to steal or I'm going to get back at the man, because you know what? I don't have any money and it's their fault. So guess what? I'm going to go into Walmart and I'm going to take what I need today and call the cops if you want. I don't care, because it's not like I could afford to live in this society anyway. How much of that is playing into the average shoplifters mentality that there's no way out of this anyways.
Well, Marty, what we saw in the Common Sense Institute report is that a lot of this is organized. It's like mob level retail theft where they have entire warehouses. And I think you probably have people on the inside of some of these corporations that are feeding this.
Sure.
It's a really serious issue. So I definitely understand being weak on crime and always providing an excuse for somebody to steal because, God forbid, their dad didn't hug them or something. But a lot of this is now getting to the level of organized cartel level crime, and that's because we've allowed this to fester. So
yeah, if you can steal coming out of the shop and there's going to be no harm to it, if they're going to let you walk out even with basically shopping carts full of detergent or vitamins or tools coming out of there, then why wouldn't the organized crime get involved in that? Why wouldn't you then get enough people involved to get into there? And we saw it during the stuff that happened in LA and Chicago and New York, where you had these mobs that came in, and that was just simply the idea of flood the zone, that where you're trying to put, and it's a simple principle inside of football, basketball, soccer, anything else. You're putting too many people into a specific area and they can't cover all. So if we put 15 people into a shop that has 3 people, they can't stop any of us if we all go grab stuff off the shelves and start walking out. So we simply have too many people, and that's where organized crime got into this thing.
Totally good, guys. Last thought, and I think everybody can feel this one, where the corporations have huge responsibility for shoplift. Because I actually think this is more of a one-off. I'm taking $20 at a time, 20 over here, 20 over there. But the fact that they converted cashiers to self-checkout, and the fact that I can steal whatever I want out of a self-checkout. How much theft that then sneakily creeps into higher prices for us. But corporations did that. They took the cashier scanning each item, and now they let me do it myself. Maybe we'll scan everything, maybe we won't, but how much of the shoplifting and then price increases coming from that? And I guess they don't care because it saves them money on the labor, but we pay for it. So it's a lot of people's fault other than the good old taxpayer person that really wants no trouble with any of this stuff. So thank you both. Great
Marty,
stuff. Keep going.
Thanks, Marty.
Appreciate the call.
Appreciate
That's Marty from Denver. His line is open. If you want to jump in, 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. All right, folks, let's talk Gyrie's. Wife and I went into the Gyrie's location in Parker. They're all over the Denver metro area, by the way, and had an absolutely fantastic experience. We got to sit down with their professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Look, I was a little overwhelmed at first because I'm not a home design pro. I've never even hired a designer, and I was afraid of the cost and what all this would look like. But it wasn't outrageous at all, totally affordable. And she walked us through everything that helped us find the perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. But here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come directly to you. They'll bring paint samples. They'll bring blind samples. They'll bring whatever you need. They'll get you covered so you can see what this is going to look like inside your own home. They even bring lasers to measure everything. So you can get the same expert advice right in your own home that we got in ours. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Every single day, I look at our blinds, and I'm thrilled with what we got with Gyrie's. Absolutely top-notch. Visit Gyrie's, that's GUIRYS.com, GUIRYS.com. Go schedule your in-home consultation. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Headline coming from the Denver Post. Douglas County wants to crack down on shoplifting in part by fining stores if they don't report it. Part of the problem in all this, it's not the silver bullet, but part of the problem is that major corporations just go, let them walk out the door. First of all, we don't want our staff trying to stop these guys. They're bad news, bad actors. So don't get involved. And secondly, we'll just write it off and add it to the price. And customers will continue to pay higher prices. So what does it matter to us? Well, county commissioners looking at this problem going, we're tired of the theft. Colorado facing a record $1.3 billion in retail theft. So if you're not calling the police, if you're not reporting it, well, you are part of the problem. And we need you to step up. But at the same time, if you're a small local business, every time somebody steals, you have 24 hours to report it, or you're going to end up with a $50 fine. Now you're having to use staff resources to report this. So is it overburdensome? Is it overregulation by the government?
And what, as you as a human, what choice would you make if you are the manager or supervisor on that shift and you know you have to devote resources to trying to get the person, report retail theft? You've got to have some sort of an identified suspect, and the company policy might be to let some of that retail theft go out the door. Or if you're a smaller business that you can't catch the person, they've run out, all of that time and effort, are you going to take that time and effort to avoid a fine that no one knows you've incurred? Because the only people that know something's been taken out of that store are yourselves and the thief. So why would you make any sort of affirmative action and possibly expose yourself to a fine? The issue is, this to me incentivizes further covering up the fact of retail theft to avoid the fine rather than an incentivization to actually try to prevent the theft.
I love when businesses do this, by the way. 0318 texting this in, because this was in an Office episode.
What?
Where you take the picture of the criminal.
Oh, yeah.
And then you put the picture right up at the front of the door.
Oh, I love
So
that.
everybody, I love it too.
I always, anytime the liquor stores have those, I always look and I'm like, do I know these people? Yeah.
I do too.
Yes.
I always look to see if I know anybody.
I love that. That's why this show works. It's because stuff like that. We're right the same way that we're like, do I know these people?
Well, and there's an episode where Michael gets lost and they end up finding him in part because he'd forgotten his wallet and his phone, and so they have his picture up in like a Chinese food restaurant.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Bill, in my mind, this is just another example of a culture that has abandoned its Judeo-Christian roots and continues to have to deal with these problems that are further downstream, right? So I want the Ten Commandments up in classrooms in part because of our great historical connection to Judeo-Christian worldview and Western civilization and how Judaism and Christianity have shaped who we are as Americans. But there's a practical impact to this as well. That if you teach young people that there is an all-knowing God who sees all that you do and you are going to be held accountable, this is all true. You're going to be held accountable for your sins, even if you don't think anybody else saw them. And one of those is thou shalt not steal. I don't know. Maybe if our kids actually learn this in schools instead of, the Republicans are Nazis, then we might actually have a better society where we're not trying to figure out all these problems further downstream.
Yeah, there is a point to that one, although I think that sometimes operationally, that especially with kids, seeing the crime and punishment in action is a bit more useful. And so I think part of it... Well, that's where I'm going with this, is the idea of, in some cases, early punishment can be a longer deterrent, meaning when you catch the kid that is shoplifting in his teenage years and he's punished for it, he's probably not going to be a shoplifter in his 20s or 30s.
There you go. The debate will continue. We'll be back tomorrow. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. We appreciate all of you. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, we can't do this without you. We're almost there. Friday tomorrow.